Yeah, it's always a tough one to predict who's going to win a World Cup, be it 50 over or T20. But there's a sort of group of teams that are all going to be a chance. I think India will be buoyant after the Asia Cup. I mean, that was a dominant performance there in that final, and obviously getting the better of the fierce rivals of Pakistan. And so I think India and Pakistan could feature in the semi-finals. I think Australia and England, another two teams that Australia will learn a lot from their efforts in South Africa. When they come to India, they've got the 3 games before the World Cup against India, so they'll have a bit more of a full-strength squad there, so that might tell us a bit more about where they're at. So a bit hard to predict who's going to win it, but I think there's probably four semi-finalists there. Well, as you say, they're well stocked. They've got a couple of options there. Obviously, when KL was out with his injury, Ishan Kishan took his opportunity and played really well. Now they find themselves in the team together. So that's a wonderful case of just taking an opportunity, being positive, and then forcing the selectors into making them keep you in the team. It seems like KL's going to be the one that continues with the gloves, but it doesn't seem to hinder Ishan Kishan's batting. He seems to play really well. Carefree, attacking, dangerous. And of course we haven't even mentioned Rishabh Pant, who's clearly not going to be ready for the World Cup, and we hope his recovery continues. But I think he's inspired a lot of wicketkeeper batters around the world to play that way. I think it's fascinating for such a young man to have such an impact that Rishabh Pant has. Others are responding and playing in that positive manner. Yeah, they're quite an experienced lineup, the Australian team. When they've got their best 11 on the park, they're all quite experienced, or the majority are, particularly the bowlers. Josh Hazlewood is the #1 ranked bowler, but he's a guy that has really had to change his craft in white ball cricket, and he's done that really well in the last 3 years. So that they will have to use that experience well, and coupled in with a guy like Adam Zampa, who obviously in South Africa was on the receiving end a little bit, but it's different conditions out here in India with the different pitches. And he's a world-class spin bowler. He's shown that, particularly across T20 cricket, and now he gets his chance in a 50-over World Cup. So, very, very knowledgeable group, and they're going to have to use all that experience against batting lineups now that across the globe play without fear. So that's the challenge for all the bowlers, is to learn how to take on aggressive batting lineups. Yeah, another experienced player who knows Indian conditions particularly, and has succeeded here in various forms of white ball cricket. He looked really good in South Africa for the most part of what he did. I think he's got a bat at the top. There's been some sort of discussion that maybe he bats down in the middle order, but I think he's got to open. He showed in South Africa a couple of times that he's as aggressive and dominant at the top of the order as he's ever been. So I think they bring with him a lot of experience and a lot of confidence, and I think he should be at the top of the order for Australia. And if he plays really well, I know opposition teams will fear that. Which team's going to win? I don't know. So I can't give you one team, but I think Australia, England, India, and probably Pakistan semi-finals, if it can work out that way. Oh, I think you've got to pick your best bowlers. I don't, if in your group of 5 or 6 best bowlers, one happens to be a left armour, well, that's a nice variation. But if you think you've got higher quality bowlers to do a job in a tournament, and they're all right arm, well, I guess you've got to trust that. So it's a challenge for selectors, always getting the balance right. I think India play their home conditions really well. They've got a lot of experience there also, so that'll be the challenge. I think a lot of countries can take a leaf out of England's book and have that positivity, and I think we'll see that in this 50-over World Cup. But some of the conditions are going to be challenging. There's going to be times when teams need some experienced players to play a more sedate innings through the middle of an innings and build a competitive total. So I think that's the beauty of 50-over cricket as opposed to T20. You still need the skills to be able to build and formulate a big innings. And often there's time, whereas in T20 cricket there's not time to rebuild often. In 50 over cricket you need some skillful players through the middle order to build those big totals, and then hopefully have the power hitters at the end to close it out. So, I think India are going to be very competitive.